Woohoo.
We out here.
All right, now we begin the little ramp process.
All right. What do you think? Should I be talking? What's
Yeah.
up, everybody on Facebook Live? We're just going to give it a second to let people join, but we have a really great show for you today. Impromptu, actually.
Yeah.
Impromptu. Not prompted. Unprompted.
Anything that's
live
asked today is going to be
on
like,
Facebook.
Here, so I'm hearing... Here, so maybe turn your sound off on that so it doesn't echo.
I did, but it won't go all the way down. It's still on like a 1.
Interesting.
See?
I don't know how that works.
Okay.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy LondonBridge here. Very special episode, live streaming episode of Space Yacht Radio. We were doing these for a while, and then we kind of fell off. I don't know what happened.
I had fun on the last one. It was a blast.
And we welcome back to the show Bijou
What's up, guys?
for his second time at Space Yacht Radio. I don't know. The first time was like we were already buddies, but like a get to know you for the fans to get to know
Yeah.
you. And I've got questions in that kind of realm of like things going on in your world.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I wanted to kind of talk about more of like what's going on in music.
I'm down.
Ideas, thoughts about music, thoughts about the scene. In addition to our good friend Bijou, we also have Hiddenhen in the building.
What's up, guys? I'm back in studio.
You know what I've noticed, Henry, is that every time the show starts, it says,
adapter.
welcome to Space Yacht Radio with your hosts LondonBridge and Hiddenhen.
Yeah.
But you've been MIA. Been
Well,
booking
I'm
shows.
I'm in the weeds, if you will. So
It's true. Most of the time when I'm doing the radio show, it's like Henry's upstairs booking like 7 shows at the same time. So,
That's a lot.
but glad to have you back in the studio. Glad you're back here, and glad to have in-studio guest Bijou,
Hi.
hailing from Phoenix, yes?
Phoenix.
The hometown.
Technically Tempe, but yes, we'll say Phoenix.
Is there a
Okay.
difference between the scene in Tempe and Phoenix, or is it a similar vibe?
Totally.
Is it really?
Phoenix is like, I feel like there's more of a downtown scene, where Tempe is like all college kids, because that's
Oh,
where
right.
ASU is, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So you get uptown Phoenix, you have downtown Phoenix, you have the west side, whereas like Tempe is all ASU and kids.
yeah.
Right.
It's fun though.
You know what I love about Tempe is PETA fucking jungle. That is the spot.
What's the deal with Pita Jungle?
Peter Jungle's bomb. They have a new one on Mill too. It's been open for maybe a year and a half.
Is that where Casa is? Is that
Very
on Mill?
close. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's funny because like the location it's at, there was probably 8 other businesses in there that had all failed, and it was like known as the spot that failed no matter what.
PETA jungle's gonna do it.
They've
I'm
been
rooting
there.
for them.
They're not leaving.
I love that. I love that. So that is a place where you can get really like, I guess, organic, healthy food, and then also black out because it's full bar. So I was just like working while we were at Space Yacht Phoenix, and it's like I'm gonna have a vodka soda while I have my like, black bean avocado bowl or something.
I feel like you'd get more fucked up if you're like eating on kind of, you don't have like that good base. Although vegetarian, there's rice and things like you can get the good base going.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That just makes me think like you're gonna just get more smashed.
I think it just
Yeah.
depends what a good base is to you.
Right. It's true. Is it a?
Oh.
Wait. Hold on.
Can you give me your headphones?
Yeah. Hold on.
Let's just plug. Oh, we can't plug into his thing. Can you check if there's an echo?
Does
on
anyone
his-
have
Well,
iPod
I
headphones?
definitely hear it. You can't put
Yeah.
your phone on mute.
It won't
Okay.
go. I don't know why.
Is it?
What
Do you
is
think
this?
it's far enough from the mic where it won't matter?
I think
I'm
it's
a little
fine.
worried, right?
It's a little weird.
It's a bit odd.
Okay.
You can
I
kind of
go
hear
like
it.
this. How
Sorry about
now?
that. We're having some technical stuff we're figuring out. But welcome to Facebook Live. So if you're tuning in on Facebook Live or on Twitter, feel free to ask us some questions. Ask our in-studio guest, Bijou, some questions. I kind of wanted to start with kind of like where you've been in the last year, because, we interviewed you about a year ago.
Mhm.
And I think at that time you had just played EDC. It was definitely like
Yeah.
you kind of had arrived in terms of being on the scene as like a new guy, and now I feel like you've been releasing so much music over the last year. You've played so many festivals. So I think my first question is, how you doing?
I'm good. I feel I just got done with vacation. I went on vacation last week for the first time
Where
in
were
like
you?
10 years, Hawaii.
Oh shit.
Went to the Big Island for like a week, and it was very, very nice, relaxing. Barely did any work,
Yeah.
and it was an actual vacation.
Right.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
feel really good right now.
Well, and I'm assuming rested too, because it's like with the amount of traveling you've been doing, it's like you probably didn't sleep for forever.
Yeah, I had just been in Australia for 3 weeks, and it was like nonstop. So you get back, and I think I was home. Yeah, it was the longest time I've been away from home, like total. And I was by myself in Australia, just chilling for 3 weeks.
It's hot.
Hold
So
on,
it was
just
good.
by yourself?
That's hot.
I was by myself. Yeah, no tour manager, nothing. I was solo.
What did you do? Like,
It
what's your day like in a
It
day
was
like that?
sick. Well, I had 9 shows, so
Oh,
it was
okay,
busy.
So you're working. Yeah.
Yeah, I did New Zealand as well, which was cool. Auckland, played a fest with Gasly
Yeah.
and Maxi Mono, which is really sick.
Yeah.
Um,
Gasly played the first Space Yacht ever. It was Ghastly. It was okay under his like other name, Coaster. It was like his house
It's like
project or whatever.
alias, yeah.
Mhm.
And then it was Ghastly, and then I got to play. It was my first show
That's
ever.
sick.
I was terrible.
Back in Golden Box.
Back in the
I
Golden
was telling him
Box.
about Golden Box last night. Like, dude, this place, like, this party started in like a small, like, 150 cap venue, and it was
Yeah.
like only industry people.
Yeah,
Right.
you
for
know?
sure.
Like,
No, and what's crazy about Golden Box is that it's not even there anymore. The club in front of it that it was connected to is still there, but they basically knocked down and then dug a hole, and it's a huge building complex now that they're finishing up. So
Oh,
Golden Box
shit.
doesn't even exist. So shout out to anybody who's watching who came to Space Out in the beginning in the Golden Box.
The OG.
Stinky room.
all the
TBT.
new ones don't even know about it.
They don't. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Well,
It's an unfortunate truth, but it's real.
a lot of people think Space Yacht's a DJ. I mean, a lot of people are very confused by what's going on at all.
I kind of like it. You know, it's
Yeah.
different. It's different, and I think we add a different flavor. But Golden Box was actually the place where we started. Did we ever do a pizza while you were playing?
I think so,
I
yes.
think you did a show with Clyde
did.
P.
I did one at Genesis with Clyde
Uh-huh.
P.
Right.
And then the one I did there was with Ryan, and then Tony showed up too.
Nice.
And it was like, imagine fitting like 3 people in the booth there, and one being Tony, because Tony's like a big ass dude.
right.
You know, it's like
No, and
packed.
Genesis, so that was for those who aren't familiar. So the Golden Box was the first year, and then we did Genesis for like a little over a year, which was, I liked it because it reminded, like Aoki used to do his Tuesday nights there. It used to be called Cinespace.
Mhm.
So for me, the old guy, used to go to those parties, and then like the fact that we got to do Space Yacht in that room, I thought was kind of legendary because I'm like, dude, fucking Justice has played here.
Right.
Franz Ferdinand played in the back room before dance music
Whoa.
was cool.
I didn't know that.
So that venue where Genesis was had just a rich, deep history.
Yeah, exactly.
It was cool because it was like upstairs and
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, it was. Was it called Genesis? Or called the Attic? Did they? It had. I never knew the Riff. Feel like it had 3 different names when we were there.
Yeah, I mean, over the years, it's gone through so many like ownership changes,
Yeah.
but the culture's still there.
Maybe
you know?
we got to buy that place. Have a proper spaced out venue. We'll have some pizza.
that'd be wild.
Call-
Sell some pizza.
Call our lawyer.
Yeah, can we get Elliot on the phone, please?
Yeah, Elliot.
Elliot.
All right, going right into it. So, I think about G House
'Kay.
in terms of like kind of 2012 to 14 like cuff stuff, right?
Mhm.
That's kind of was my initial introduction to like this idea of G House. And for those who don't know, Cuff is a label outside of France. They're still still release records, but in those early days, it's led by Amine Edge and Dance, or it's Amine Edge, right? That's how you say it. Does anybody know how to really
I
say
mean, if
their
you're
name?
French, you'd probably say Aminé.
Amine.
I guess it depends who you are.
Amine.
I don't know.
All right. Well,
Ege? Anime? Etege?
it's an attaché case. What is
Okay.
an attaché case? Anyway, so that I knew it from that, and
Mhm.
like kind of the people within that was like Amine Edge and Dance, Clyde P, Tim Baresco,
Yeah.
and then honestly, when we first met, like in the beginning, you were definitely like on that tip. I mean, I don't think
Mhm.
it sounded like Cuff stuff, but I could tell that was kind of
It was a bit more West Coast,
right.
because
Right.
it was like, okay, I live in Arizona. I really love West Coast hip hop, and no one's really using that sound in G House. And I was like, that sounds like real G House to me, so I'm gonna do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think Gangster Shit was probably the one that you and Tony did together
Yeah.
that really blew up that sound, or at least introduced that version of the sound to
Mhm.
the kids out here.
Yeah, Hello is different, and it's kind of funny too how that one worked out because Tony was not really playing G House at the time because he was one of the first guys I discovered that was doing it, and then he went into like a little bit of a trap phase, and he was like
Mhm.
when Bygor was big and stuff like that. And then we were in Miami, and I was actually TMing for him for that day.
I was there.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember you were like showing the phone. I was like,
Yeah.
what's he doing? I was like, oh, time, right.
yeah. I had never TM'd before, so he's like grabbing my arm and showing himself the phone. I'm like, oh, he wants to know how much time he has
Right,
left. I don't know
right.
what's going on.
That was the Bygor pool party, right?
Yes,
Dude, I remember that. That was a fun
it was.
party.
So we were riding back, and he was like, you know what, man? Like, I just want to go back to my roots. And I was like, all right, well, then let's make some shit. And he's like, all right, cool. And I had already done Hello. No one knows this story, really, than Tony. I had already had Hello done, and Mala was playing it, Structo was playing it, a bunch of people, and I was
Mhm.
like, I think we can make it better. So I just sent him the project, and a week later it was done. And then, like, we put it out probably a month later, and then, like, Don Diablo played it main stage
Yeah.
at EDC, and it just kind of happened.
Well,
became the
and
record.
it was from the outside looking in. Like I had kind of known you from very early in the kind of Bijou days, or at
Mhm.
least the SoundCloud version of me
Yeah.
knowing you, and I could tell that seemed to me to be a turning point for you, like where all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, like you're really
Totally.
in the mix now. You
It
know?
was that, and literally the same week I had my first night bass release that was a collab with Vanilla Ace, and it was like
Sick.
I had never toured in my life, right? And literally 2 weeks later, we got like 10 offers,
Right.
and I didn't even have an agent. It was just like me and Daniel, like, well, okay, I guess we're gonna try and do this.
Right.
It was
Right.
weird. It's like one track can just make the difference.
Right.
Yeah.
And were you? I mean, that in terms of like beginning that track, it was just another thing that you had made, and you didn't kind of think of it in that way of like, oh, this could be the big record.
I didn't, but I know exactly what I thought when I went into that track, and I remember it. It was like, okay, how can I make the hardest sounding shit with like the sickest, hardest West Coast vocal? And I was like, that's the one.
Right.
And cool, here's what it is. And I was like, all right.
Right.
And that just
Yeah.
it came out, and that's what it was.
So like kind of the follow-up question, and I was thinking about this myself, was like, where does like G house start and bass house end, or vice versa? And because I think hip hop in general, in any genre of electronic music, you're hearing hip hop edits all over the place.
Mhm.
It's probably the most popular thing that you can drop outside of like, unless you're fucking, I don't know, Cascade, right?
Yeah.
So kind of that's my question, and maybe there isn't a proper answer, but like, do you think is there a differentiator between like G house and bass house? Is it just the hip hop element, or kind of where do you stand on?
I would say it's the sound design too, because in G House you get more of like the DJ Mustard sounding bass sounds,
Mhm.
that are plucky, whereas bass house, like you get wubs, you have some
Right.
actual dubstep influence in
Right.
it as well. I feel like even now the BPM, instead of it being at like 124, 125 G House, bass house you're gonna be like 128 to 130.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then now you have like the UK stuff that's really hot, like
Right.
Holy Goof, shit like that, and
Yeah.
that's like 132 to 135.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
it's even last night. Well, it depends on when you were listening to this, but we had a show with Axel Boy and Tony Romero recently.
Yeah.
You were there, and your boy Teague, who you're working with, was there as well. And that was one of the things that I was thinking about was like, it's very fast on the bass house stuff. It's very fast, and it has, I would say, it has more elements of like bass music than house music. I mean,
Totally.
obviously it's both, but it's like specifically when Axel Boy went on, he was like, first song just dropped the heaviest
Boom.
shit. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, I even remember you were like, he's going in right now.
Right now, yeah, exactly. No, it was dope. But I do think that there's becoming a taste for that, because when I think about it, it's almost like it's like festival house. It's
Yeah.
super amped up, like jump up, like
It's festival records,
Yeah.
It's like it works in the club in certain venues, because like I've been at venues where I'm like, okay, the history of this venue, I've played it before, they like heavier shit, but you have to think about how the scene has changed within that year too.
Right.
So like for example, right now tech house is huge, so people like groovier stuff,
Mhm.
and I've noticed that the bass house stuff that I will play sometimes, it doesn't work as well right now.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I'll play this more at festival sets where kids are literally just jumping up and down, losing their mind. Where in the club sets, I'm like, I'm playing 90% G house shit, some techier stuff that has G house influence, and some other stuff that might be a little not poppy, but like bouncy and fun.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's another thing I was thinking about your trajectory, because you have these kind of heavy records. You have that EP that you just put out recently. It's like, there's raps on every record.
Yeah, it's like
heavy.
real G house.
Yeah, it's real G house. But then you have the record that you did on Dim Mac.
Your Love.
Yeah, which is like vocal house with
Yep.
piano vibes, and like very, to me, like hearkening of like original house tunes. You know what I mean? So in your mind, when you're in the studio, is there are you even breaking it up in your mind like that, or you're just kind of making whatever comes out? Because I feel like you're very diverse. Your sound is not one sound. It's
Correct.
like a couple.
And it took me a while to get to that point, because I was like, all right, I'm gonna stick in this lane, then I'm gonna expand on it. It's funny because Your Love and Memories, I made both of them in the same week.
Sick.
And it was just like, it was a very emotional time for me, which doesn't happen very often. And I had never been able to make music like that, even though I had tried, and I just couldn't pinpoint it. And that week I was like, oh, this is how you do it, because it just came straight from the inside. It wasn't trying to force it,
Right.
and it just worked. So now I'm like, okay, I figured out how to do it. So like, for example, for the tour, for Crown, it's bouncier, and it's more of a song like that. Full top line, full bridge, and the drop has like that G house bass,
Right.
but I have vocal over it.
Right.
So it's almost you kind of get a mesh of all of my sounds in one in this song.
Right. I'd agree with that.
So
For sure. I think there's also something to doing those. There's, a club record outside of, let's say, losing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, club records, it's hard for them to transition to be potentially radio hits. And radio hits is kind of, I don't mean radio hits in America because that's very hard to do. But, like, let's think about, like, BBC One and, like, Pete Tong playing it, right? And, like how the Disciples have big records and these kind of things that kind of go beyond the club, right? They start in the club and go beyond. So I think that's my takeaway from your newer stuff was, like, those vocal things have, like, I feel like they could go much further than just the
It's
club,
a crossover. It's
know?
funny because I had this conversation with Andrew from Loud Luxury the other day. We were kind of talking about it, and we kind of agreed that it's tougher to have a big club record now than it is to have a radio record. Reason being is, for a radio record, you get a lot of them because they're being played on the radio, okay? But club records, like Losing It, for example, you have that one club record for that year, and that's it. Nobody pays attention to anything else.
Right.
They just want to hear Losing It.
Right.
So
Well, but I think Fisher's other stuff, also Dombresky too, I feel like has done a good job of, like, releasing a bunch of them
Yep.
that, like, make you...
I love his new stuff.
Yeah, new stuff is good. And also Noizu, I think, is another guy who's, like, it's not just bangers, but it's, like, there's a catchiness to some of these records, you know what I mean? That I think is maybe it's just, like, having a great vocal, like a real vocal, not just a sample that makes it that much, can go that much further.
I feel like it's having that just hook. I've had this conversation with Rob. It's like having that hook. Do you have that hook, whether it's the bass line, the vocal? Do you remember it? Is it memorable is what I think is the most important thing.
Right.
That's
the thing.
And
That's
it's
what
like,
makes a hit.
it doesn't even have to be overcomplicated, because I had that problem for a while where I was overcomplicating things and overproducing, and I was like, all right, we got to strip this back.
Right. I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand in terms of production is, like, half the battle isn't putting on, like, a million layers and a million tracks. It's knowing when to actually trim the fat on some level.
And it's
You know
like
what I mean?
Jerry, I've talked to Jerry about this. Jerry's like, mixing down isn't just getting all your levels right. Mixing down is pulling stuff out of the record too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
because things get very cluttered very quickly. And
Yeah.
sometimes you don't, as the producer, you don't even realize that you're muddying up all your different shit.
One thing for me now is it's like, okay, say the song is only 20 channels, but every single sound has its own space. So it's like even the subtle things have their own space, and they're big parts of the record, where you don't have 50 different things in there that are just little parts of the record that people don't even hear. So
Right.
you're hearing every part of that song,
Right.
which I
So
think
you
is
don't want
cool.
things competing with each other.
Yeah.
What is, like, supposed to be a polished product.
I think that's probably a good one for the kid. Remember, kids, anyone who's listening to this, who's in the production room, simpler can be better.
Yeah.
Not always, but it can be.
Less
better.
is more is a real thing.
It's
Music
true.
is the space.
No, that's
between
what
the
I
notes.
honestly. That's resonating with me because, like, a lot of records that I've sent out that end up getting signed, like, a lot of people have notes being like, "Do less clave, less cowbell." But that's bullshit. You always need more cowbell every single
It's
time.
true. Have you heard the new Low 99 one with the cowbell?
I have. I
When that
fuck-
cowbell comes in, man, it got me. I was like, fuck, that's tight.
That's good medium rare.
Yeah.
Medium rare.
Cowbell. It all merges. It's all around the cow.
Right, medium
Oh, I
rare.
didn't even
It's
think
all
about
around
that.
a piece of steak, baby.
Wow. Maybe not. Yeah, it's not for the vegans, not for the veggies.
Yeah, I'm
Do
good.
we want to go
I'm
to
good on
some
the steak.
questions from Twitter? I mean, there's a million more things we could do.
Yeah,
Let's
So,
ask.
Henry, why don't you,
I've got
you
a
hit it?
bunch on the prompter, so let's see what we've got.
I'll answer questions, whatever you want.
How do you guys go about networking with people that got you? Oh, whoa.
I feel like your echo is really echoey.
I can turn it off somehow. I'd have to shut my phone off.
Can you? I mean, is that?
Does anyone have, like, literally just, like, iPhone headphones?
I don't think we have those in house, but here we got a question. Can we?
We got a question from
Yep,
Facebook.
Got a
from
question
Twitter.
from Facebook. How do you guys go about networking with people who can get you up to the top? It's a very pointed and specific question.
I think it's a good question for Ben because I don't know. I feel like when I first heard of you, you were kind of like not affiliated, and then you were able to
With
jump
anyone.
into these different crews. So what was your strategy there?
The biggest thing for me is actually creating a pure relationship with these people, not being like, okay, this so-and-so and this so-and-so and this so-and-so is in my lane. How can I use them to get where I want to be?
Right.
Right. That's never going to work because, one, these people have been through the ringer so many times, they're going to notice it right away. And they're going to be like, oh, this person wants to use me. I'm not fucking with you. It's very simple.
Right.
It's like, do you have a relationship, and do you actually want to be friends with these people? And do you want to work with them and actually work together so you can all grow, not just you.
Right.
You know, because if you're thinking about just you, it's totally selfish, and you're not helping the scene at all either.
Right.
Which
And
is,
people can kind of sniff that, don't you think? You can sniff it when you're like, this person is being. It's not too eager, but it's like you can kind of feel that they're coming from like kind of like a more.
you're like, hey man,
smarmy
cool
place.
out. You know, like have
Right.
some patience. You know.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I see it too as a non-DJ. It's like there's a really fine line between like, you know, it's almost easier to be over transparent in these cases where it's like, hey, you know,
Yes.
I'm kind of a person that needs some help, and I don't know if I could, you know, be of help to you. And that conversation often starts too early, and we're like, bro, I don't even know you. Like,
Yeah.
I
Like,
just hung out with you and had a drink, but like that's cool. But
Yeah.
it
You
would
know,
be nice if I knew who you were.
I don't even like asking people I've been friends with for years for anything.
Yeah.
I don't like doing that. You know, it's like I actually had this conversation with someone the other day. It's like, this is gonna sound fucked up, but it's totally the honest truth. A lot of times in the music industry, when you're doing favors for people, even if you don't expect anything, they're never reciprocated. And if
Mhm.
you're really friends with someone, I think that person's gonna reciprocate it regardless. You know, whether it's a year down the line or not. But I think if you do something for someone, you shouldn't expect anything in return ever.
No, I
I
agree
don't
with
think
that.
that's fucked up at all. I mean, that's true. Great giving in the true sense. You know.
And I think in the end too, being honest with everyone you're working with and you're around is what's most important.
Right. You know, it really does always come around. I think that's kind of the moral of the story. It's right. You did something nice for that person, and it actually will come back. But I think to your point, it's not having the attitude of that's why you're doing it, right? It's like it's having an attitude of I'm going to do this because either it's cool or it's a good look or I'm passionate about it. But it's not just because then you're going to give me this. You know what I mean? And I definitely can speak from personal experience. Is like when you go into something like that without expecting anything, you usually get something in return.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
It's just doing the right thing.
yeah, exactly.
It's very simple.
I mean, I think that's a life lesson for anybody in any context. That's not even just like about music or
Just in
or
general.
our world. It's weird. Like maybe this whole like EDM shit is like a microcosm for life. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I learned a lot of life shit just doing this, you know? Just
Yeah.
experiences in general help you kind of figure out other things that don't involve music.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, you're navigating personalities. You're navigating egos, whether it's like people you play with or the management side of things or any of
It's
that.
tough, man. The business side is really difficult
Yeah.
because when you are in the same realm with a lot of people who are your friends, you're like, okay, this person wants this slot on this festival or this show. And it's like, sometimes shit happens and you don't even know. And you're like, well, why did they get this? Why did they get that? And you can't worry about that stuff. You kind of just got to do your thing and keep going.
100%.
Yeah.
Any other questions from Twitter, Henry?
I've actually got quite a few more. I'm going to jump back to what we were talking about in terms of.
Here, I think you got to dead that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's
So we're going to end the Instagram live stream because we have some feedback.
But
issues
come on to
going
Facebook.
So come join us on Facebook and Twitter. You can just go. Yeah, you can just go straight to our @SpaceYacht handle. You guys ready for the next question?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
What's more important to y'all in a record, a really dirty bass line or really catchy vocals?
Ooh.
I think we were just talking about that.
We
Ooh.
were. Who wants to go first?
I'm really into like roller bass line stuff.
Yeah.
Teague actually opened his first like 10 minutes of a set.
Dude, he played really underground.
I
the
was
first 10
like,
minutes.
I was just like, I was watching him. I was like, I'd play these records. I like
These are good records.
These are good records.
Good selection, man.
I fuck with these records.
I think for Clubland, it's the dirty bass lines.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was gonna say. For me, I just love that rolling bass line. It doesn't nothing really even needs to happen, just as long as the drop and that bass is like, which by the way, not easy to do to make bass even sound good. Period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you have any like tips on the bass? I'm asking personally. Do you have any tips
Okay.
on like bass production?
I think the biggest thing for me is good side chaining.
Yeah.
And because if you don't, your whole record's going to be phasing and it's just going to sound like shit.
Right.
It's going to sound like shit.
So so side chaining. It's kind of hard to explain like
It's
on the
basically
live stream, but
dipping the bass
Right.
underneath the kick so that the kick comes through so that each sound can have its own space because they're in the same frequency,
right.
which means the same space.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the kick drum, the beat of the kick drum takes that bass note. It takes the place of the bass note.
Correct.
But what ends up happening is that you still have the tail end of the sound. It's
Mm-hmm.
just taking the attack off. So the kick drum is your attack, but you still have the sound of the bass.
Yep.
So that's Well,
Exactly.
I'm glad to know that because that's what I do, and I guess I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Your stuff always sounds good.
Side
so-
chaining, bro. All right, Henry. What else have we got from the internets? Questions for our guest Bijou.
I'm going to keep going on the production side. What's your biggest tip for making a clean mix?
A clean
Ooh,
mix.
That's a good one.
Ooh, okay. So that's kind of
Start
like
with Bijou here.
subjective, you know, because it's different on every single track. One, I think not overthinking it is huge. You know, it's like, okay, does everything have its own space? Does everything sound good? Is everything clean? You know? And the biggest thing for me is I mix in headphones.
Yeah.
And here's one tip I'll give that I learned a couple years ago is I actually used to do my mix and masters, the finals, in iPod headphones. Because if it sounds good in iPod headphones, it's probably going to
Right.
sound good in
It's like
everything.
where
That's
most of
right.
your fans are going to be listening.
Yeah, think
through.
about it. If you're listening to something on a daily basis, you're not in the car very often, you're at work, you can wear headphones,
Yeah.
whatever they are, you're probably going to be listening in that.
Yep.
Yeah, most of your paying fans don't have $5,000 speakers, right?
Yeah.
Just chilling.
It's true.
What are the other ones, like car test and laptop?
I car test, I laptop test, I always club test now.
Club test. Okay.
Yeah.
That's very
No,
crucial.
club test is important. But you know what I also do? I do the phone test.
Yep.
The
Oh.
phone, no headphones. But I feel, you
Mhm.
know who taught me that tip was Angels.
Yeah.
Angels originally was like, yeah, man, I just mix everything and do everything on the laptop speaker, period, end of story. And I was like, you're fucking
Ryan Collins is the same shit.
It's
But dude,
amazing.
Angels is a wizard. That
Yeah.
guy, like,
Yeah.
I've been in the studio with him a couple times, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
he's
and
on
it's
FL
like-
Studio, so it's like, you know,
Yeah,
that's
that
why you
too.
don't know.
But the guy's been producing for like 14 years since he was like 12.
Yeah, he's wild.
That's absurd.
And you guys have a record coming up together soon.
Next
I think
week.
when this airs, yeah, this will already be out.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that record. that you
So we did a tour like 2 years ago, and we've always been like, oh, let's do this, let's do that, but we never were happy with what we were working on, and we're like, let's just do it. I've been working with this rapper out of New Orleans named Cheddar,
yeah.
affiliated with like Suicide Boys, that whole crew,
Oh yeah.
and I had like 5 of his vocals sitting, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna work on this one. I sent it to Henry, and he was like, this is the one. I'm gonna finish it, and I was pestering him. I told him straight up, I was like, I'm going to pester you about this one, which I don't usually do. And he's like, it's cool, man. Just pester me. He's like, I will have this done by July 1st. But like mid-June, he's like, he hit me one day. He's like, I'm finishing the song today. It was done that day. And we are like, all right, cool. And then we just figured out the
Nice.
plan for it. And it's like jihad. Just imagine him and I having a kid. That's what it is.
I
And
love it when you have like the perfect collabs, like the 50-50 DNA.
Yeah, it's really 50-50 there because it doesn't always work like that,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Right.
Those are usually, I find, to be the best collabs when you have like that natural flow
Mhm.
together, which is hard to do. That's why collabs are so hard to do. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, you'll hang out with someone, have a good hang, and then you listen to it back and you're like, this isn't great. And like,
Mhm.
how do you take something that's not great and then the collab kind of fades away? I mean,
Yeah.
my whole joke is like, oh, you want to collab with me? Great. It's never going to be finished.
Yeah.
It's
Fuck.
it's literally like collabs are created to not be finished. That's
Mhm.
pretty much it. And
I've had
anyone
quite a
who
few of
finishes a
those.
collab, I give them much kudos.
I try to I used to do that. I used to be really bad about that. Like, fuck, this dude sent me some fire. I wanna work on this.
Right.
And then I'm like, well, I gotta do this, this, and that. And the thing is, I think a lot of artists they prioritize their solo stuff first, where it's like, I'm honest with everyone now. I'm like, look, if I'm gonna do this, it's gonna take me this amount of time, or I'm gonna be like, look, I may not even be able to get this done.
Right.
So if you want to finish it yourself, go ahead.
Right.
And I think that makes it a lot easier for others.
Right. Right.
And not
then
waiting.
And then collabs. I mean, are collabs happening for you these days, like in an organic fashion, or is there like strategy behind collabs, or is it just kind of like
What do you consider organic fashion?
It's kind of what we were talking about like your friends, like with
Mhm.
Angels. It's like took you a couple years, but you found like the right thing.
Yeah.
Whereas like a lot of people that I know, like their management are like, we have to collab with this person in order to do this or this or
Mhm.
this. I mean, is there any of that going on, or are you just kind of going with who you
I don't
wanna
do
work
that.
with? Yeah.
If like my team will suggest stuff, and if I don't want to do it, they're totally cool with it.
Yeah.
Because like one thing they've always done for me, which has been great, is they let me control the music side of things. So there's no pressure from my team ever on the music side of things, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because I know not everyone has that,
Right.
and I don't think I'd be able to work with a team who pressured me on this, or that.
Well, it can get in your head, right? Because then all of
Yeah.
a sudden you're going to be second guessing what you're doing because of the directions you're getting from someone
Exactly.
else.
And I always send them stuff when I finish it, and I get their input from everyone: Daniel, Josh, Thomas, and Rob.
Right.
All 4 of them. I'm like, all right, what do you think about this? If there's feedback, I'll work on it. If I don't like it, I'll be like, look, I tried this. I'm not happy with it. This is what I'm gonna do. And they're like, cool.
Right.
So, but there's
That's
like
great.
collab-wise, it's usually pretty organic. Like everyone that's on the tour this fall, I have a song with.
Right.
You guys have heard the stuff with Jerry, the stuff with Blossom. Finished the one with DLMT. I think I sent you that one.
Yeah.
Mysteria, we have one sitting. We're just trying to figure out what to do with it.
Dope.
So
He's sick. He's playing our Space Yacht in San Francisco next week.
that kid is really
Yeah,
talented.
he's the man.
He's really cool.
good.
Cool
And
guy
talk
too.
a little bit about, before we go back to the internet, talk about the tour. So it's the Crown Tour.
It's the Crown Tour.
What are the dates so people know to look out for it?
There's
It's like it's a fall tour, right?
yeah, it's like 30 shows right now. We're adding Asia, which is cool. So there's gonna be a full phase 2 because some stuff is blurred out. There's a couple festivals, club shows. We have
Right.
LA at Sound
Nice.
on October 12th,
Oh yeah.
Spicy.
which will be
Everybody
good.
go get your tickets at Sound
So-
Nightclub.
It's the biggest tour I've ever done, so I'm
Sick.
really
That's
happy about
spicy.
it.
I like it.
That's fire. How's the internet? What's going on?
Internet's
Henry?
popping. I mean, speaking towards collabs.
Okay.
You launched your label this year.
I
Do
did.
Not Duplicate.
D&D.
Yep.
Started with like a crazy double collab thing going on. So we got a question from your Facebook. What is your vision for D&D Records in 2020?
Yo.
2020, we pretty much have it already planned out. We're gonna be doing more branded parties.
Mhm.
I think we're gonna be doing some festival stages and signing a whole bunch of really, really good music. You know, basically what I'm signing is music that I love and music that I'll play. You know, so then one, not only is it music that I enjoy and I think other listeners will, but it's also getting exposure.
Mhm.
Because my biggest thing is like, I've talked about this before, like Tony, AC Slater, Wax Motif, these guys put me on early and they really helped me out when I was younger. And like my biggest thing is like, I want to help guys come up that I really believe in.
Right.
You know, like DLMT, Mysteria, guys like that. We have Nostalgics, we have her on the label. So
Hell
it's
yeah.
like,
Big fan.
I love Nostalgics. We're trying to do some stuff up in Vancouver, and we want her
She's
to play.
awesome.
She's really
she's
dope.
really cool. She always sends me quality stuff.
Yeah. Who real quick, rapid fire. 3 artists that you're fucking with right now. Don't think, just go.
DLMT, Mysteria. I don't know if I can name 3.
That's
Dun
it.
dun dun.
That-
Just
well,
two.
dude, that's pretty big praise for those 2.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see the Mysteria live show because he's all about the darkness. That's
He's
his whole-
sick.
That's his
Dude,
whole
this
vibe.
I'm telling you, this kid DLMT is gonna come out of nowhere.
I wanna give a little shout out to Ski Tour out of Whistler, Canada.
Yeah, I'm
That's
fucking
so,
with them. There you
yeah,
go.
so
There's
that-
3.
No, so they no, but I actually, you know, it was I don't think you even sent it to me. I got it off a promo service. Blue
Okay.
Caboose is a record out on your label, and I don't know why that record speaks to me so much, but
It's just
does.
fun.
It's so fun.
It's really fun. It's really bouncy. It's just like we heard that and we're like, this is so sick.
Yeah.
We gotta sign this song.
Yeah.
So even like Thomas is really picky and he was like, what the fuck is this?
Right.
Like what?
Yeah.
Because like he doesn't really hear a lot of the label stuff and we're
Right.
like, we were playing that in the office and he's like, what song is that? I want this song. So he's hyped on that one.
That's dope.
Which is cool.
That's dope. Yeah, psyched to hear what else they have coming out because that one's a banger.
They're fire.
It's a bangerang.
Yeah, you'll see some more of like who we're fucking with on the label next month. We have the second compilation coming out. So it's I'm not gonna
D&D.
say anything.
That's on D&D Records 2020, baby.
Dungeons
Yeah.
and Dragons. Do you have the 12-sided die?
I don't know what that is.
D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. What?
Oh yeah.
Dungeons
Yeah,
I don't
okay, keep
I don't
aging
play
myself.
Dungeons and Dragons.
All right, what else
I've-
is going on, Henry? What's the internet have to say about Dungeons and Dragons?
Here's a fun one. What do you think Tony, Dr. Fresh's hair color is going to be next?
Dude, you never fucking know with that guy. It's like, what's the next festival he's playing? Because it's gonna be like that.
Yeah.
You know, like he just got his hair done for Shambhala. He's like, oh, my Shambhala hair. So he's playing Nocturnal. He's gonna probably get Nocturnal hair.
Red,
Yeah.
red
It's gonna be
velvet.
like a green,
Not
blue.
green velvet, red, blue
His-
velvet.
His fucking hair is gonna be dead
Gold
when he's
velvet.
35.
Well, there's always the bald look.
Rogaine?
It works for some of us. Yeah, I got some more questions.
Let's hear
What
it.
else is going on?
I'll
on.
answer anything.
Well, I mean, what else? I mean, Henry? What's on your mind? I mean, how's the scene? How's music going? What's music? What is music?
So we actually have another question that I think we want to touch on a little bit.
Okay.
Who is going to be at Nocturnal? So
Oh.
today we just launched a Nocturnal stage.
Okay.
Oh
It's
shit!
a surprise stage on an art car that they're going to decorate.
sick.
Real crazy. And
So you
real
mean
weird.
Space Yacht time, Space Yacht Nocturnal,
Space
Yacht
Yacht
at
time is
Nocturnal.
Nocturnal. Yeah.
That's
I know.
fire.
It's
Shout out to
happening.
Shade.
Shout out to Shade, indeed.
Shade's on Nocturnal. LondonBridge is Nocturnal.
It's your boy.
So the whole kind of Space Yacht crew and like tightest homies are big presence at Nocturnal.
Mhm.
Across
I know
all-
you work with
all
Shade,
the
but like
days.
watching him in the last year has been really cool. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I mean, it's artists like yourself who just have this personal drive and like hands-on with the creativity. The visuals need to be run through, you know, your way or Shade's way and your way as well. It's like it's easy to work with artists like that. It's,
because they have a
the
direct
energy's there.
vision, and you're like, this is what I want, and then you can just do it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, no, and that's the thing that I respect about you and Shade, seeing the way Shade is approaching it. There's no limits. You know what I'm saying? And I think if you have an attitude of there's nothing that can stop me getting to where I want to be, I think that's a winning formula. And I think a lot of people don't have that, because I think everybody, I think by nature, kind of can be excuse oriented, right? Here's why I can't do this, or this person has this. It goes back to what you were saying about paying attention to why other people got this time slot, or any of the bullshit that's really just the noise, right? But I agree with Henry. It's this drive. And I think the artists, I'm seeing it across the board with all the different artists that are getting successful. It's this drive and being like, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to have an idea, and I'm going to make that idea happen.
Right.
Exactly.
And as simple as that sounds, it really is the differentiator. And a lot of people don't necessarily have that gene. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like you have to be a professional athlete, right? And have to have the discipline of, instead of the gym, you're in the studio.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
It switches up, and it's like, for me, it's been like, okay, I accomplished this goal. I did this. So what do I do next?
Right.
I think sometimes people are like, well, I don't know what to do next. You know, so for me, it was like, well, we're launching the label. Now I want to help other people. You know, like I've done things I want to do, and I'm going to continue to do that. But how can I help others in the process? So like going back to the label, like the end goal is, you know how El Ro is, and they have like international like themed shit. That's what I want it to be, but like in our own version. You know, I looked at El Ro and was like, they have these themed parties all over the world, different stages, and they have curated lineups. I want to do that.
Right. It's almost like, I mean, for the people listening in, and if trying to become producers or DJs or even promoters, it's almost like I'll use you as an example. So you have Bijou as a brand, D&D as a brand, but then you have these key personnel, like one top dog being Ben, and then you have Thomas, Daniel, media people. I think if everyone kind of wakes up just simply saying like, what's one thing I can do to make it like just one up my shit?
Yep.
You know, like the whole project's going to pop off. And it applies to Space Yacht, LondonBridge, Shade, you know.
Well, yeah, it's like an element of challenging yourself and believing in yourself, I guess.
Right.
I don't know, which is hard to do these days.
Yeah.
People are very self-conscious.
Yep.
Fucking internet, bro.
Yeah, try and
Instagram.
we had this conversation last time where I was like, yeah, just try and stay off of it. I have a hard time with that.
It gets really real because it's like how we consume media nowadays.
And
Yeah.
it's like,
It's
how
a
do
real
you have to think about it too, like everyone's opinion, you can't take it personal. You can't take anything personal on the internet. Whether you're like, I don't fucking like what this guy's saying, you don't even know that person in real life. You know, they could be the nicest guy and they might just be spitting the truth, but it's not what you believe to be the truth. So why do you have to hate on them? Just, okay, I saw this. I don't like it. Okay, move on.
Right.
You know?
You know what term I don't like right now? My truth. Hear me out.
Okay.
So everybody's like, I'm speaking my truth. Carmelo Anthony was on talking to Stephen A. Smith about wanting to be in the basketball. Forget basketball. Anyway, my truth, I think my truth is actually, even though people use it as a positive term, it's actually kind of a negative term because it implies that there is no universal truth.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, no, this, I'm saying this, I'm getting this off my chest because this is my truth. And I'm like, but without a universal truth, then it's kind of what you see happening in society now, where it's just like no holds barred, everybody kind of out for themselves, and being like, well, that's fine what you say, but I'm not going to take that opinion because that's not my truth. That's your truth.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you believe that there isn't a universal truth?
I think there's universal truths within certain sectors of just like humanity, you know,
Okay.
and maybe it's too general, but even just like simple things like being good to one another, being kind, and it's a generality, right? But not everybody agrees with that. I think a lot of the problems in society today are actually problems about people getting their feelings hurt.
Yes.
That's why people are beefing all the time, because literally it just comes down to be like, you hurt my feelings, and therefore I'm going to do whatever that response is, and then it spirals into what you see, whether it's on Twitter or wherever that might manifest, right? So if you think about how like simple that is, you're like, wait, you're beefing with me, or we're going at war on Twitter because like I hurt your feelings, you know? And it's like that is the beginning, and then it's like the whole truth thing, where it's like if we had some sort of semblance of understanding together, then you'd know not to hurt that person's feelings, or you would know what's cool and what's not. Now I just think it's just like people throwing shit out, and being like, well, fuck you. I mean, political stuff aside, I
Yeah.
think like even within dance music, you have people who take sides and like, oh, that's not techno, or that's not G house, or that's, you know what I mean?
Why does it matter? It's just music.
I know.
Either
but you know.
either enjoy it or don't. And the
Right.
stuff you don't enjoy, just go enjoy what you do.
Right. No, I know, but it's like, you know,
It's pretty simple.
it's simple, but you know, but I also think that that's like, I was like that when I was a kid.
I
was like, fuck Stone Temple Pilots. STP stuck. Nirvana forever.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
And now in my older years, I like Stone Temple Pilots. They got some good songs. Anyway, sorry. We got a little off the rails there, but
that's okay.
you know, just trying to think about the big picture.
Yeah.
What else we got from the internets, Henry? Any more questions for
Speaking
Bijou?
towards managerial relationships,
Ooh,
okay.
What are some of the qualities for a successful artist and manager relationship?
Ooh,
I like that.
That's a
think we should
really
start with
good
Ben on
one.
this one.
That's
That's a
a
good
really
one.
good one. So, I'll use myself as an example. I've known my team for 9 years, you know, and I think I'm very, very hands-on. And I think one of the biggest thing is being able to trust the people you're working with
Mhm.
and having them trust your vision at the same time. Because if they don't, you're just going to clash, you know, and it's never going to work. Daniel, Thomas, Josh, and I, and Rob, we work very closely and we work very, very well, where it's rare that we disagree on something, you know, which is really cool. And we're very fortunate to have that. I think having a very good relationship with this person on a personal level is important. A lot of people in the industry would say like, well, that's not good because when it comes to business stuff, you're going to disagree and you're going to lose friends and this and that. Well, you have to be able to differentiate personal and business, you know, because there is a difference. So if it's personal related and you're not happy about it, cool, that's a personal thing. If it's business related and you're not happy about it, you have to understand that's business. It's not taken personal.
Right.
You know, and you can't take those things personal. So for me, I think that's important. You know, you got to be able to have that relationship with these people. And I kind of always go back to that because to me, having the relationships with everyone you're working with is important. You know, because I think everyone wins in that case.
Totally. It's true.
And how did you meet Thomas, Daniel,
Fuck,
Rob,
man.
Josh?
Good question. So a lot of people don't know this about me. They probably just think that I'm just like this DJ guy who makes music. But like I started in the streets handing out flyers for shows.
Uh-huh.
Like I was a street promoter, selling tickets, DJing shitty clubs, handing out flyers for Thomas's shows, working for a third-party company.
Uh-huh.
Like I didn't even meet Thomas until maybe a year later. And it's funny, this is actually a pretty funny story because when he put my name in his phone for the first time, he misspelled it and he put it in as Bedge Dormson. And maybe until about a year ago it never got changed.
That's good.
That should be
man.
your side project. That's your techno side project, Edge
Yeah.
Dorman.
So that's how we met. And Daniel actually, before he was a buyer for Relentless, he had his own company and was throwing raves on the west side.
Uh-huh.
And I met Daniel playing his parties. You know, like he had 9/11 Massive, Whiteout, Blackout, these parties. And
Uh-huh.
him and I came up at the same time. And then I don't even know how Josh got involved. I think he was working with Y2K and Honest at the time. And I was like,
Mhm.
this guy knows what he's doing. He knows how to do promo. I want to work with this dude. And it was kind of like, all right, we'll try it out and see what happens.
Right.
I think that was in 2014. So I've known Josh for 5 years. And then Rob has been friends with Thomas for, I think, 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And that's how that relationship came together.
Okay.
Organic.
Organic. That
Very.
sounds as organic as it gets.
No GMOs.
No GMOs. Shout out Sunbird.
So yeah, no GMOs, real hoes.
So I think this next question's probably a bit for all of us, but so I mean, there's always cases where like labels don't want to fuck with your release, and I mean, you have your own label. You know, we have sort of like a promotional thing going on.
We're putting my next record out with Space Yacht.
What happens? Like, what's the route that an artist like yourself takes when, let's say, early on before you had your own label, and like no one wanted to take it? Or
Nobody
the ones
understood
that you
G House
wanted
back
to
then.
take it.
Nobody like G House was more of like a Brazilian and European thing. You know, it wasn't really a US thing yet. I was like, I want to bring this to the US. Wax was doing it, Destructo and Tony, but it wasn't to the masses. No one knew about it. Nobody wanted to sign my music. No one. Like we sent out to Cuff, all these labels, nobody wanted it. It was either too fast BPM wise, too commercial, too gangster, like you name it. There was a reason why. So I was like, this is when you could actually do shit on SoundCloud. I was just like, fuck this. Met Josh, and he's like, we're putting everything out on our own. We don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And then little by little, I think as you start to gain traction, labels want to be involved with artists like that. Because as the artist grows, the label's like, oh shit, that'll help us as a label too.
Mm-hmm.
And then they want to start fucking with your music. But I think I was fortunate enough where, okay, now I can choose, you know?
Right.
And I think it's very important label-wise. You shouldn't change your sound for a label because you think your label fits.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't change your sound for a label just to be on the label.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. It's like,
Right.
where does your music fit, you think, is what I think is most important.
And I think it's a double-edged sword because like any label who's worth their weight will want the artist to do their own thing.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're writing for, let's say, my label, then like what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not really forwarding the narrative of pushing something truly fresh and different.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, Nightbase is a good example.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that I necessarily fit on Nightbase because it's a little bit more UK, a little bit bass house, but it was like, I think the reason it worked is because my music was different from what had been on there before. So I think it was just good timing. So I think like maybe you can shoot for labels that you think you may not fit on and be like, okay, I can be that dude that's different and stand out too.
Right.
Right.
You know, but it's cool because everyone on Nightbase has their own sound, but it fits as one on the label.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, and I'm looking for people like that on my label where I want it to be diverse. I don't want just one sound.
Right.
You know, so I want everyone to stand out on their own.
Yeah, and you also probably get more. You're able to appeal to more people by just doing that simply. You know what I
Totally.
mean? Because then you have
Yeah.
people with different tastes.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to Sans Marcy SoundCloud today, which is a label. It's
Sick.
Tony Romero's label out of France, and that was actually one thing I took away from that label was like, that shit is all over the place. Even Mousetrap right now.
It's diverse.
Like, yeah, it's super diverse, and I actually really like that. And I think I think it's an important point with something like Nightbase or Confession or Dirty Bird. I think those three specifically, at least in the American world of house, it is easy to be like, oh, like I want to be a part of that crew, so I'm gonna like tailor my music to that crew to try to get on it. But to your point, it's a failed strategy.
I
You know
think
what
long
mean?
term is when it's the worst because you hit a point where you're like, fuck, I hate what I'm making. And then you're like, do I start over? What do I do?
Right.
And I've seen it happen.
Right.
You're not happy.
Right. It's true.
It's easy to get lost in the sauce.
Don't get lost in the
Yeah.
sauce.
No, you see it with like younger artists who are like coming to Space Yacht. They don't really get the gigs they want, and
They're eager.
They're eager, but there's no kind of direction, I guess.
Yeah.
you know?
I think that's the hardest thing, though, as an artist, is finding your direction, not only musically, but brand wise, too.
Right.
You know, and I think it's really tough to narrow that one thing down that everyone is going to latch on to.
Right.
It's a tough thing.
And brand is a very specific word that I think people get confused about because it's not just the images on your Instagram. It's like what's the message you share to the world and what's your legacy potentially going to be.
Yeah.
And like that is the umbrella kind of energy on top of what becomes your brand.
I have a question. What do you guys want the Space Yacht legacy to be?
Oh, pizza and eating ass.
Pizza and eating ass.
Can you do that in sound, like during the shows?
Pizza for
Oh,
sure.
pizza for sure. Yeah. Rami's got that right. I mean, there's so much, but also it's simple. It's like it's showcasing the next generation of dance music. You know,
Yeah. You've always done that, too.
it's always coming through our doors, and I think the moment it's not happening is the moment we're not doing our jobs the
Right.
best way.
Mhm.
You know, and that's why I think that's really our driving force.
And also, there's a community aspect that I don't think we expected. I mean, we didn't expect anything that's happened in Space Yacht to happen. We just threw a party, and then all of a sudden this shit happened. But for me, the passion of the fan base and the amount of kids who come up to us and are just like, thank you for making this a place that I can come to enjoy music and feel safe and feel like myself.
That's cool.
I think that's where we're at least like on a show by show basis. That's what the consistent feedback I get, and that's where I'm like, okay, well then that's what we're here to do, is to make you be able to come to this, whether it's an escape or whether it's a place to feel safe because you don't feel comfortable in whatever setting you're in. You know, that's kind of become my passion. I think the music is almost like it's the thing that brings everybody there to feel that way, to feel, you know. And I think it's not just Space Yacht that does this. You know, you go to EDC, it's like very magical for people who go to those festivals. You were talking about Shambhala, like there were like 3 people who went over the weekend to Shambhala and came back, and they couldn't stop talking about it. It was like Burning Man in that way, right? So it's not like we're the only ones doing it, but I think for our community, it's about kind of stoking those flames of, you know, people feeling comfortable, people feeling like they can get a chance to play their music. And if you're watching the live stream or listening to this, keep sending us the music. Even if you don't get an email back, we're listening to everything that you send. And so it's just kind of a cool back and forth. I do think that there will be stuff about, we talk about this too. It's like, we don't even know like the thing that's going to be the big thing for us. Like we haven't even thought about it, or I think it's going to just appear. So I think we're still, for Space Yacht, even though we're 4 years in, we're still in the baby infancy of like what it could be.
You guys are just having fun.
We're having fun.
Yeah.
We like booking shows.
It's important.
And we love the music.
Booking raves and smoking J's.
Booking raves and smoking J's. Speaking of, I don't know when is this going to air. We got to figure out. We've got to, whatever. Talk about weed later.
Yeah. Tune in every Monday night.
For the weed?
For the weed.
Well, no, we're doing like a new weed release with Nug.
I saw that.
Yeah, so you know, it's funny. Tony works with them. Shout out to Nug, amazing cannabis company out of Northern California, and we're doing a pre-roll with them. But they started working with Tony, Dr. Fresh, you know, for the last like 3 or 4 months, and he's been kind of like an ambassador for them. Yeah. So that's actually how I found out about the company. And then one of the guys used to DJ at Space Yacht, who now works there, and hit me up and was like, "Yo, like we're trying to get into the space." So
have you met them yet?
I know one of the guys personally, and then the other 2 guys I've just been on calls.
Okay, these guys are awesome, and I'll tell you why. So I played in San Francisco, I think it was in June, and Tony happened to be there for the Cannabis Cup with those guys, and he was like, "Yo, Ben's playing at Audio tonight," and they're like, "Fuck yeah, we're all going, we're getting a table, it's going to be nuts." And they all showed up, and it was literally insane.
I love that.
Sick.
Like, it was a good time.
Shout out to
They're
Nug.
good dudes.
Shout out to Nug. If you want to check out their stuff, you can go to Instagram and just look up Nug, and I think it'll come up.
Just Nug,
I don't know the
yeah.
official handle, but
It's Nug.
It's
literally
Nug.
Nug.
I wish we could ask people questions that are like tuned in. You know how sick that would
Well,
be?
can we can ask people questions on the Facebook, right? Do we have is that a thing? Oh,
I'm curious what other questions we have too.
yeah. What other questions do we have from the internet? We're here live with Bijou. Ask anything.
Also known as Jake.
Hold on. What was your side name again? What was the other thing?
Bedge Dormson.
Bedge Dormson.
Bedge Dormson.
Welcome.
That's hot.
World premiere from Bedge Dormson. This is a techno banger.
Daniel still calls me that. Every day he's like, "What's up, Bedge?"
Live you. This is Pete Tong, BBC One Radio. We are here with Bedge Dormson, who laid down the most epic set at Fabric last night.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
No, but seriously, shout out to Pete Tong. He's a big inspiration to us
Radio
when it
legend.
comes to
Legend Pete Tong.
radio and kind of a lot of what we do. You know, like we kind of talk about memes and jokes and stuff, but when it comes down to like those Fabric live mixes, the
BBC
like Boiler Room
mixes.
mixes, BBC mixes, like those brands are really elevated to us.
Oh yeah, because they're like 30 years in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're new kids on the block.
That's the name of the game in this industry is longevity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
For all
true.
the kids out there.
It's true.
Totally.
It's well, I think even for being an artist too. I mean, I can't tell you how many people that we met when you and I met, whatever, 4 years ago or something like that. And I think about the people who were coming up at Space Yacht or wanting to play, and then you kind of look back and you're like, wait, is that person even making music anymore? You know, I think there is this kind of thing as an artist, like you have to want to do it for the long haul because you can't stay relevant on like one record from 5 years ago.
And it's up and down. So like, are you gonna keep going when you're down, or are you gonna stop?
Right.
You know, it's perseverance.
Right.
It's not easy.
Perseverance, no matter what.
Pay your taxes.
You pay your taxes.
That's
you
a good
that
one.
9 to 5 job, whatever.
Really
it is.
pay your taxes and like figure out like how they work, because it will fuck you up.
It is hard as an independent artist, right? Like no one's really there to coach you. There's
Luckily,
no W-2s.
This is where I've been very fortunate because of Thomas, because he has Relentless Beats, you know. So it's like they have the company, and he's been like he's my manager, but he's also been like a business manager in a sense, you know. So he helps on that aspect. There's like the cool thing about that company is they kind of have done different things on different realms. So as a management company, you can kind of encapsulate everything, and they help artists more than just on the music side, which I think is super important.
I kind of it's a good question from online. What's on your rider?
Oh, that's easy. I took all the alcohol off. I don't even drink. I had alcohol in there just for my friends.
Yeah.
There's one bottle of Patron. Daniel kept that on there for himself.
Shout out Daniel with the Patron,
There
baby.
it is. Manager needs to drink.
I
Fly
have
boy.
these protein bars that I get because like they're hard to find on the road. So it's basically because you're traveling so much, you don't always get to eat a meal.
Right.
I have these all organic vegan protein shakes for after the show because there's nothing's open and you're usually hungry and worn out. Watermelon juice, hydration, Fiji water, a towel, a fan. And I think that's it. I used to have like candy and shit on there. Like from being a promoter at one point, I feel like as a promoter, when you have an artist coming in, the easier they make your job, the more you want to book them again. Because you're like, wow, this artist is great. They played well. I don't have to get them a million things.
Right.
And it's very simple, you know? So I'm like, okay, well, my rider is going to be this. It's easy. They can get it from one place at one time because someone has to go to the grocery store and buy that shit.
True.
Right.
You know?
Right. No, it's we see it too because, you know, we do all the bookings, so
Yeah.
we see the rider. And I think my new response is we will fulfill all of the beverage requests. That's what I say.
Yeah.
All your beverage requests will be fulfilled. The rest you can kind of go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
So.
there's like a meal buyout on there.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Look, I had nothing against it. No, because I think people take the rider they use it as like I get to like choose whatever I want, like whatever. I think your point is a good one. Is somebody has to go get that shit.
Yeah, don't
Someone
take
has to
advantage of someone who's
Exactly.
doing something nice for you. But I think like when you first start touring, I think you have more shit on there. I did have more. And it was more like, it was not stuff I needed.
Right.
It was like
Right.
candy
Right.
and gum and like this shit that you don't need,
Right.
you know, especially on the road because if you're on, sugar does help when you're on the road for energy, but it's like you're going to crash. And I think actually eating healthier and taking care of yourself is going to be better long term.
100%.
So I'm like, okay, there's an organic veggie platter and an organic fruit platter on there.
Great.
So
Right.
it's like,
You're thinking ahead of a lot of other touring musicians out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a little different in like the arena or like stadium space.
totally.
It's like I need my own shower or socks, and you kind of do, you know, when you're
Yeah.
on a bus half the time. But
My one exception for this is Nitty Gritty because he has a Lego set on his rider, and people get him the Lego set. So
that's cool.
That one
That's a
I'm
cool
like, that one I'm like, it's all right because he really does. He like, I've seen him like do the Legos.
He
And I'm
loves
like,
it.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, well at least you're using the Legos. It's not like some bullshit. So
Yeah, a lot of times people get it just to see if they did. Like I used to have a warm, freshly baked chocolate croissant, not from Starbucks either, and no one knew where to get it from.
oh my god.
Yeah.
From like this is a funny story. One time I played El Paso, and the guy called me, and I knew him, and he's like, "Look, man, I'm happy you're here. I got everything on your rider, but I have no idea where to get a warm, freshly baked chocolate croissant."
oh,
And I'm like, "It's just a joke. It's totally fine." Right? And then
my god.
he had, I won't say who it was, but he had another artist the night before who was like a stickler about the rider. It was like there wasn't something there and he was pissed. So he was really worried that I was going to be like really mad about the chocolate croissant.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But then one time someone got it for me and brought a microwave to heat it up. That was sick.
That's baller.
That's the only time I ever got
That's dedication. Wow.
it. It was Allie Schloman. She hooked it up.
Shout out Allie.
Shout out to Allie.
Yeah.
I think I'm back on names for techno groups. I think Chocolate Croissant is another one that I think could be fire. Beach Dormson and Chocolate Croissant. Dude, so underground.
Rundown techno duo.
So we got a couple minutes left. What's
Okay.
coming up for you in terms of things to promote, releases, anything coming up that you want to let the people know about?
Music, we got Release with Angels next week.
Huge.
We actually have a remix for Matroda's album coming out at the end of the month.
Sick.
Then the Crown, you know. Then we got the tour coming up, and then we're gonna be into next year. It's gonna fly by.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
you
sure.
know, so it's gonna be pretty hectic.
That's dope.
And I think I might have time off.
Well, if you're listening to this and you're not familiar with Bijou's music, go check it out on any of your favorite streaming service, right? Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Music, Apple Pod. I don't fucking know.
Amazon,
Amazon.
Tidal.
Yeah, Tidal. Exclusively on Tidal.
Tidal has playlists now.
Oh. I
Yeah.
didn't even know
They're
that
getting
still
ahead of the
existed.
game. Shocking.
It does.
And then definitely, if you're trying to see Bijou in your town, go check out his Facebook page. It has all the tour dates there for the
Yep.
Crown tour. And then all of your support on that are all like some of our favorite artists. I mean,
Thank
we're
you.
huge fans of, Blossom Mysteria, Jerry Gonza. I stand Jerry Gonza's couch when I go to Phoenix. You know
I
what
love
mean?
Jerry.
He's the best, man. You
He
guys have been
is.
friends forever, right?
Yeah,
Like,
6 years. I met Jerry from booking him in Phoenix.
oh,
When I
Oh,
worked
okay.
for that same company, I was like, the dude who was like the boss, I was like, look, man, we got to book G House shit here if we're actually going to make it work. He's like, all right, we'll try it out.
Right.
We booked the Cool Cats when
Right.
Jerry was in the other group. And like, I went and picked up Jerry, and you have like this young 21-year-old kid. He's just like sitting on the curb, and I'm like, this dude's going to be cool. We've been friends ever since.
Sick.
He's really one of the nicest dudes out there.
He is.
Really great guy. Great musician too.
He is.
Really, very talented.
Yeah, his live
Well,
shit's
yeah, because he's
crazy.
doing. He just did Space Out with us like last month or 6 weeks ago, and he does the live drums. He sings along with it, and he's also a fantastic like technical DJ.
Did he
as
bring in
well.
the keyboards too?
He didn't. I think he had it, but I don't think it was working. But he had the
Yeah.
drum machine working.
Dude, when he has the keyboards and he's playing like live melodies and
Yeah.
shit, like I'm like, dude, like that's insane.
And people
I
want
can't do
that. People want that. They want something different, right? You know, just the DJ playing, you know, sometimes doesn't suffice. But you know, I'm a big fan
Mhm.
and a big fan of his productions. He's got a track called Noise from like 3 years ago that I still play,
Yeah.
still in my set, still a rinser.
I actually learned quite a bit about production from him.
Yeah,
All right.
for sure. All right, well, that was an hour that went by very fast.
Can we do one
Yeah.
more question?
Let's do one more question. There's no rules
Yeah,
here.
that's it.
We want one more question for Bijou from the internets. What do you got, Henry? Do you have is there one coming?
Oh, one more question from the internet.
Yeah. Unless you or unless
you
you're-
looked like you had one. You were like looking around like, I got something good here.
Yeah.
No, it was just he took a dump in his pants. That's all.
Yeah. Actually, I think both are true.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's been an hour, so it's, you know, we got to.
Well, I was like wondering why it smelled like fresh baked bread in here, and then I realized.
Damn, that's a nice.
I think this is gonna be a good one, actually.
Okay.
This one just came up. Come on, guys. Everyone poos. Come on. So how did you come up with the name Bijou, and was there any other names that were in consideration?
Nice.
The man sitting behind you gave me that name.
All right. And the camera pans.
Nah, he
Dun,
he don't do cameras. My brother gave me that name. He doesn't remember where it came from. I think you saw it in a commercial, right?
Nah, it's just like a little pet name for a little brother. You know,
Bijou.
when he's out of line and you want to call him like, you know, a little shit. He's my little baby Bijou.
So Bijou means little shit.
Yeah.
He's honestly a gem, a treasure, and that's
A gem.
That's a meaning of it is a precious stone of some sort, you know. And so
Yeah.
everybody has that within them. I think, you know.
I fuck with that.
There you go. If you guys heard it.
He
Little
he
gem,
said a precious stone.
stone.
Little gem. Gem in the holograms.
That's phenomenal.
There you go. Everybody got the real story because I get that question a lot. So now everyone has the real story.
I like the
That's
sub.
great.
I like the sub, the guru, like that. Your alter ego.
Kalina gave me that.
Kalina Sanders.
Ooh, shout out
She-
to Kalina.
Shout
She
out.
was like trying to get me to self-proclaim that, and I was like, no way. Absolutely not.
I saw her on your EDC recap. I saw her singing on that. That recap is dope. That looked like a fucking monster
you.
set.
It was pretty exhilarating.
Was that Stereo Bloom? Is that the stage?
Yeah, and it's cool because I played it last year, and it was kind of enclosed, but they opened it up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got there, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
We actually have something on the way that's finished that I don't know where it's going yet. Or
With
what we're
Kalina?
doing. Yeah, it's been done. It's been done since before EDC, actually.
Nice.
So we're just trying to figure it out, the right move for it.
My biggest record is with Kalina. My most streamed thing. It's that
She's a-
sweet, sweet voice.
She's a boss.
She's the best, and an amazing songwriter too. People don't know that. I mean, if you're not familiar with Kalina Zanders, go check her out. She's not. It's not only the voice. It's like her top line and melody writing is incredible. Like,
Yeah.
it's real talent.
As a writer, oh my God.
Yeah.
She actually co-wrote the whole top line and vocals for Crown with Tyler.
Nice.
So
Oh,
they
wow.
co-wrote it together.
And also, she did that record with you, "Count on Me." Right.
Yes.
That's a great one. That's a classic.
Thank you. She
All
said
time.
hello. I forgot to tell you guys.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hi, Kalina. You know, she sang at my wedding.
What?
She did. So she sang our first dance. So we had her. She sang "Lose My Mind," "Help Me Lose My Mind" by Disclosure, with the live band. They did one rehearsal like between when we had finished the ceremony, and then everybody did drinks for an hour, and so she went down and ran through it twice, and then we came out and did the first dance, and it was amazing.
That is
Not a
sick.
dry eye in the audience, you know what I mean? For real.
She's good at that.
For real. Shout out to Kalina. Well, this has been a great episode.
I had a
Ben,
great
Bijou,
time.
thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate the
Thanks
time.
for having me, and thanks for
And,
everyone who listened.
And Henry, thanks for being here too. Happy to have you back in
Happy
the
to
cut.
be here.
And shout out to Dom, who's been behind the scenes helping us with the live stream and the questions.
Thanks, Tom.
And it's your boy London Bridge for Space Yacht Radio. We'll be back next week, and we'll catch you on the flippy flop.
Bye-bye.
Later.